Welcome to Zurich Airport in beautiful Switzerland, and welcome to Vatsim 101. And welcome to the cockpit of the VUELING Airline A320 Airbus. And as you can see, the aircraft is powered up and we're partially prepared for flight. And the very reason why I wanted to make this video is to do with this section on the checklist, the walkaround. Something that is usually done by the first officer or the captain. If he wants to do it on occasions, he will do that as well. So I thought I'd make a detailed video of the walkaround. Reason being is that sometimes this part of our simulation might go amiss. I know sometimes it does, a lot of times it does with me, so I thought I'd just make a video about it. So one of the very first things that we need to make sure we do before we go onto the tarmac is to put on our high visibility vests, because without that on the tarmac, well, we won't become very popular with the authorities. Okay, so assuming we have that on, before we head out to the tarmac, there's a couple of things I would like to do, and one of them is to turn on the APUs, because I actually don't want the ground cart on because it's going to get in my way. So just taking a look at the APUs now, the indication for it, and shortly it will spool up. As regards these flaps, we're going to have a look at these flaps as part of our tour on our ground checks of the aircraft. And another thing as well we're going to look at on the cabin pressure page are these two, inlet and outlet valves. And this covers the ventilation system for the avionics equipment. I've never seen these two open, to be honest with you. I think they're just there for appearance sake. Okay, so how's the APUs doing? Right, they look like they are on. Yes, they are. So we can switch off and disconnect the ground cart, and I will disconnect it from the ground services. Alright, so that won't bother us as we are on our walkabout. Right, another thing that we need to do is set the parking brakes. Okay, so we'll see why when we head out onto the tarmac. Alright, so I think that is about it. So what we can do now is just head outside onto the stairs that's there waiting for us. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, it's a bit noisy with the APUs going, but we'll just have to put up with it. Now, while we're on top of the stairs at this vantage point, it really is a good idea, and especially if it's winter, to have a look at the top of the wings to see if there's any ice forming, and also look along the fuselage as well. And if there is ice forming, then we need to call out the appropriate system to actually clear the ice before we fly. So just walking down the stairs and turning around. Now, one of the first things we need to check on the front left part of the fuselage are the probes. Now, these are the angle of attack probes, one for the captain and a standby probe. Just need to make sure that they are not bent in any way, not obstructed in any way, and just clear of any blockage. Obviously we have to do this visually because we can't actually get close to that one as it's too high. These ones are a bit closer. These are the first officer and captain's static air pressure port, and we also need to make sure that that also is in good condition, clean, and any covers on that then we need to remove and put away. Now just next to it is the Avionics inlet valve, and that's the indicator I was showing you in the cockpit. Now this can be open depending on the pressure, on the temperature. If it's round about between 35 to about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, then this may well be opened, and it's very, very powerful indraft from this. So if you're walking next to it, then you have to really make sure that nothing gets caught. So moving along then to this part, we have the oxygen bay door, and right about here, although it's not shown very well, is the oxygen indicator. Oxygen bay overcharge indicator would be right there. Alright. Now these two are called pitot probes, one for the captain and one as a standby pitot probe. Very, very important because they affect, or they give the readings on the primary flight display for the speed, altitude, etc. And really one of the checks is to make sure that these are also undamaged and not blocked, and if there are remove me covers on them, then those covers indeed must be removed. And just a little bit over, you have the captain's TAT probe, the true air temperature probe, and we just need to give a visual check on that too. Now standing back a bit, you will also see that there's another static air pressure port, and we just have a look at the general condition of that and make sure that all is well there. Now while we're here, we're very close to the radome, and you can see here that's the radome latch. So just have a look at that and make sure it is actually latched down properly. And as we stand back from the aircraft, you can see the other side, just to make sure that's okay. Now while we're in this position, it will be good to actually have a look at the wings and to see if there's anything untoward on the leading edge of the wing, such as any bird strikes, any telltale indications, just while we're here. Okay, so moving forward then, so we have another static standby port on the right hand side of the aircraft, and also you can see here the first officer's pitot probe and a true air temperature probe. And just round about here is the DME antenna. So just having a look at that, making sure that these are okay, unobstructed and in good condition. Okay, so starting from the right, we have the battery compartment. This is the battery compartment door, making sure that that is sealed, pushed in, and also this would be the avionics equipment outlet valve, and a lot of it's quite a powerful force coming out of this valve here. So that is we need to make sure and just check that, and especially if it's not operating, then we just make sure that the flap is level with the aircraft. And moving along, we have the avionics hatch, and next to it the first officer and captain static port. Now the other thing, most important, we need to look for is the first officer's angle of attack probe, just like on the other side. Now we need to try and get this hatch down. Okay, there we are. So we have a very good view of the AOA probe, and we can see that it's in good condition and it seems operational, so that's good. Alright, so moving along now to the nose wheel. check the nose wheel tire, making sure that there's no loose bolts here on the hub, making sure the tires are in good condition, no deep tears or cuts or anything like that. Now just looking straight ahead, we see several lights looking at us. Now the lower ones are the runway turn-off lights, so we just want to check those to make sure that the bulbs are there, the glass is not broken, and all is well. Now the top left hand or right hand from the plane's view is the taxiway light. Okay, so that looks okay, and the right hand one is the headlight. Alright, now just looking at this box here, this is the brake light indicator right here. And the reason why we put the brakes on as well is so that this indicator, well, this actually shows that the brake is on. And although it's not simulated on this model, but that's what it is, that light there. Now just moving around the aircraft, one very important thing that we need to make sure is done before we take off is the nose wheel steering pin, which runs roughly about from here to here, because if we take off with that still engaged, then it'll be impossible to retract the landing gear. Okay, and we just want to check the lock springs here, making sure that they're okay. No hydraulic leaks from the steering actuator or anywhere around there. So that is the nose wheel. These antennas around here are your ATC antennas, the transponder 1 and 2, and also you have a DME antenna just right there. Now moving along, you can see this little inverted dome here. That is your TCAS. That's for your TCAS equipment. Just have a look at that and make sure it's looking good and there's no apparent damage to that. And this is your water drain mast and your beacon marker right here. So just looking at the condition of these and making sure that they're not blocked in any way. Now we come along to this door, which is the refuel panel door, and if this was opened and you could see the refuel equipment inside, you'd be able to see if the tanks are well balanced and how much fuel they have put in for your flight, whether it's the correct amount or not. Just looking at the underside of the aircraft, you have PAX 1 and PAX 2 outlet ports, so we give a good look at that, make sure that there's nothing obstructing it there, and also your beacon light as well. So moving around, we have the yellow hydraulic access door and the APU fuel drain there, make sure they're closed. And one thing about these hatches, if they are left open, the hinges are actually on the proper side. In other words, so that if it's left open, then when the aircraft picks up speed, then the pressure of the wind will actually close it tight. So, but the good thing is to obviously make sure they're closed before we take off. Now we are looking at the right hand gear strut, and we just want to make sure that that is looking in good order. Just above it there, while we're here, we can see the landing gear, the landing lights. Now at the moment they're retracted, and if you remember in the cockpit there's a couple of positions for this light here, and one of them is off, and actually there's 3 positions: off, retracted and on. So we need to make sure that they're retracted for flight. In fact, when these are out, apparently you can feel the difference within the cabin. With the wind actually rushing past it actually creates an effect in the cabin, and it can be felt. Okay, so moving on, having another look at the right gear strut, checking the hydraulic lines and making sure that there are no apparent leakages. Looking at the tyre, the gears, and making sure that wheel bolts are there and nothing is becoming loose. Checking the overall condition of the tyre, making sure that there are no deep cuts or anything doesn't look too right, and also checking the inner walls as well. Well, the other thing I need to actually we just go back there. One thing we can't afford to miss are the brake wear indicators, and this is one of the reasons why we need to put our parking brakes on, because right about here, it's not simulated on the aircraft, right about here you have brake wear pins, and it just shows you the extent of the brakes. It doesn't take long to change brakes. If in the real world, if a pilot would see that the brakes are wearing down, then just call the engineers and they could do it within a reasonable time and quite quickly, so it wouldn't be a need to cancel a flight. And we will also check while we're here the hydraulic brake lines as well. So looking at the tyre, once again we'll look at the bolts and make sure that they are okay and all there. And moving around to the cone for the engine, the turbine, the rear of the turbine. Now we can't quite see it inside, but we'd look for anything that is not quite right, such as evidence of bird strikes, and also within the cone right about here, a bit further down inside, you will see reverser door actuators, one here, one there, and the same on the other side as well. And we just want to make sure that they are in good condition and there's nothing, no problems there. Okay, so moving along to the side, we will check the engine oil fill access door and the magnetic chip detector access door, and just make sure that the cowling or the pylons are there, nothing's fallen off during the last flight. So moving around to the face of the engine, just having a look inside, you can see the fan blades. Now we can't spin them ourselves on the simulator unless the engines are running. We can't spin it by hand, but in real life the pilot would actually spin these and just check the general condition of them, and you can see the probe here at the top. So moving around to the other side, there you have the engine anti-ice, the air-cooled oil cooler on the left, and next to it the starter air valve override access door, as well as just underneath that the gearbox breather outlet. So just having a quick visual on that. So moving along to the wing. Now looking up, you can see the fuel coupling cap and the magnetic fuel level indicator round about here, and there's 4 of these per wing, and they will actually be numbered or lettered R1, R2, R3, or R4, etc., or just 4 of them. So you'd make sure that the flap is level with the wing and that everything looks okay there. And this is your fuel vent overpressure disc, and once again make sure that you can see that and that the indicator is okay. Alright, so moving along down the wing, we can see another fuel vent pressure indicator, and also you will have a fuel water drain there, and if you see a puddle on the ground, then you know that this is more than likely leaking. Just moving along to the winglet, just check that that's undamaged and make sure that the beacons are working if you've switched them on, or if they're not switched on, let's make sure they're undamaged in any way. And here is a good vantage point to have a look at the static discharges, make sure that they're there. And while we're here, we can have a look at the antennas on top of the aircraft as well. Now the ailerons, they're dropped down. This is normal because there is no hydraulic pressure in the system at the moment, so it's not quite normal for them to be dropped down. However, the flaps should be standing upright. So just having a look at the fairings, making sure that they are in good condition and that there are no problems there. Good. So just looking underneath the aircraft, we can see the VHF antenna, and just having a look at the condition for that. And just going towards the tail part, we can see the water drain mast, outflow valve, and we have a toilet service access door, the bulk cargo door, which is here. We'll have a look at these once again, making sure that they're closed and that there's no obstruction here as well. The horizontal stabilizers, just checking there, checking that the static discharges are there. Once again, these are down because there is no hydraulic pressure in the system. Just moving round to the APU exhaust end, we can see that we have a beacon light there, and just moving a bit closer, now we can just about see the APU flap. So when we saw the indicator inside the aircraft, we had to wait for the flap to open before the APU actually would spool up. This is the flap here that was opening. It opens and closes with the start and stop of the APU. Okay, so moving on to the other side of the aircraft. Now we have the APU louver and the outlet and APU fire extinguisher, overpressure indicator and stabilizer position. So we can't quite see those things here, but they are in this section. Now this needs to be in the 0 position. Now this one currently is not, but that's one of the checks that we would actually make. Okay, moving along to the left wing. And we have the ground hydraulic connection, and we have the green and blue doors. So these are the hydraulic doors, and just to make sure that they're closed and that they are sealed if they need to be sealed. Looking along underneath, now this is what you call the RAT, or the ram air turbine, and this would only be operated by a switch inside the cockpit, and once it's operated, it generates hydraulic pressure so that the captain, at least pilot flying, will have enough hydraulic power and the ability to control the aircraft, at least up until the runway. But when this has been dropped, then only maintenance and the engineers can actually put it back up again. So we have also the blue hydraulic pump access door as well. And moving along, just to the left, we see the left gear strut, making sure that's okay, no leak from the hydraulic lines there. Looking down again at the tires, checking the overall condition, and also making sure that the hub nuts are on. And once again, checking the brake wear indicators. Everything looks good there. Also checking the light is there and undamaged. And once again, we do the same thing here like what we've done for the other side. We check the reverse door indicators and just check the general condition of the turbine exhaust there. So moving along the wing, we will do the same exactly what we've done on the other side, checking the vent, overpressure indicators, and also the fuel coupling and the winglet and static discharges and the fairings, and just making sure that everything there is working fine, or looking fine in fact. And here we're on the side of the engine oil filler access door, magnetic chip detector door. We need to make sure that they're all closed. And once again, checking the fan blades. And the engine anti-ice there. And once again, the starter air valve, override access door, the gearbox breather outlet, as well as the air-cooled oil cooler. So that is it for our pre-flight check, our on-ground check or walk around. And just one last thing to do as we go up the stairs is, while we're here, just have a look at the wing. And as we did on the other side, just to make sure that if it is winter, needs to make sure that there is no ice forming, and just check the fuselage there, make sure everything is okay. So that is it, and we can now get back into the cockpit. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief walk around check of the A320 Airbus. Now, all the camera views were set up by Chaseplane, and if you'd like to do this kind of walk around and check up yourself, then I'm going to make the file available on my channel. Just click in the description part on the introduction of the channel, and you'll be able to download from my Dropbox all the views that were used in this aircraft. Now you might need to adjust it a little bit for your aircraft depending on what kind of aircraft you're using, but essentially the views are in the right position, and you'll just need to make small finer adjustments and make it suitable for your aircraft. And if you do like the video, please do like and subscribe, as we are a new channel and we do, or I do say, need your support very much. So thanks once again for watching, and see you again in the next video.